So we get going here. And by the way, our weekly handicapping report for these PGA Tour events brought to you by PlaybookSports.com and also, of course, the new YouTube channel, Playbook Experts. So check that out. Mark Lawrence, legendary handicapper, does the show every Wednesday on his channel, on his YouTube channel. Football will segue into basketball, so it's not over football season. Matter of fact, Mark and I will start talking college hoops in a few weeks, all the way through to the Final Four. But look, you got to start, of course, as the favorite. I know the odds have changed a little bit in the last, as they always do. So again, if you're new to the channel, listen to Jared. Get your picks in early. It's usually good to get them in like Monday morning, correct?
Yeah. I try to. That's
for not underdogs, but because I wouldn't say get it in early for favorites. That'd be the opposite, as you saw in this event. Because Spieth was 9-1, now he's 12-1. So when you're looking at favorites, the chances of them going a lot lower are usually small. So if you're looking at favorites, yeah, also better off waiting. The opposite, but if you're looking at the mid-range to long shots, then try to get them in early.
Definitely the long shots, because I think these books, if there's a guy at 150 to 1 and they take a few bets on him, like that guy gets slashed at 100 immediately. So yeah, I like making as many of my bets as possible on Monday morning.
Okay, so Spieth, 9 top 25s in 10 appearances, 6 top 10s, 4 top 5s, runner-up last year, and a win in 2017. So the reason why that I'm not completely against taking him, nor should I, is the fact that he really he's only won here once. So it's not like he's got like 4 wins, and it's going to be hard for him to win a 5th. There's a lot of players, actually, that have won here multiple times. Maybe Hoagie will be one of them, winning back-to-back. But Spieth could if there's going to be another player to win a second time, Spieth's going to be the guy. So,
yeah, I mean, the course history is definitely baked into his odds. I mean, to me, Hovland and Fitzpatrick should be the 2 favorites here, and then Spieth should be third. So if I was going to bet one of the favorites, it would be Hovland first, probably for me, then Fitzpatrick second, and Spieth would be third. I have no interest in him at this number.
Yeah, the thing that I noticed is that it does look like you have to have a little experience. And also, I did want to ask you, I don't know, I should have asked you before the show, but do you see any comparison at all between Sony and Pebble, outside of the Pro-Am, of course, differences?
I mean, they're both shorter golf courses.
Okay.
Right? Different putting surfaces, but I think there's definitely some crossover.
All right, because I believe the last 5 winners played at Sony. So
the year that
they won. So that's one thing that I noticed. So you can keep an eye on that. And let's see, where do I have it at Pebble? There it is. And so also the other trends that were a little bit interesting, and we do have to remind everybody that we talked about it before, but of course you've got the 3 golf courses. So which one is the easiest one?
Monterey Peninsula is the easiest.
Is it sort of like last week, or is it just a little bit?
I think it's considerably easier than Spyglass, and then Pebble kind of falls in the middle.
Okay.
But all this stuff's wind dependent too. You got to keep an eye on the wind. I think especially at Pebble with it being right on the ocean there.
By the way, this has nothing to do with handicapping, but there has not been a playoff in this event since 2008.
Wow, we're due.
And 4 of the last 19 winners won. I mean, 4 of the last 19 winners were victorious by just 1 stroke. So that means 15 of the last 19 winners of this event won by more than a stroke. And there's no playoffs. And so and maybe this has to do with the 3 rotations, and you've got a lead, you're going to win, that somehow somebody shoots that 63, which is probably a Monterey, and that gives him an opportunity to kind of widen the field a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what else to make of that.
Yeah.
Strange.
And the other thing, Americans have won 17 of the last 18 and 77 of 82 all time at Pebble.
Ooh.
And the last 11 first-time winners averaged 5.45 appearances before winning this event, with 9 of the last 11 making at least 4 appearances. So that was going to be my point with Hovland, was that it does seem that players, probably it's the combination of the field and then having to play the Pro-Am.
Yeah. So he's never played this. Oh, he did play this event in 2020. Now Hovland won the U.S. Amateur here in 2018, I believe it was. And then he also played when the U.S. Open was here, which I think was 2019.
You know how we finished?
Pull it up. I think he did. He was still an AM at that point, I believe. Let's see. Was it? Yeah, it was 2019. He finished 12th.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he doesn't have a ton of experience in this event, but he does have some experience
around
on the golf course.
Yeah. Not again. The Pro-Am deal is the big one. That can really screw with you. The last player to win, making his first appearance, was in 1993. Brett Ogle from Australia, 1993. So if you've never played here before, and again, it's a combination of not playing here before and then needing some experience. You'd rather have someone that has some experience here. The last 11 first-time winners had an average ranking of 149 before winning here, including 229, 246, 305, and 447. So
yeah, this has kind of been either a favorite wins or a super, super deep long shot win. So I 6 of the last 10 winners were 28-1 or shorter. But then also in that 10-year span, you have a winner at 160-1, at 300-1, and 500-1. So, again, it's kind of either been one of the favorites or someone way, way down the board.
Well, Fitzpatrick at least does have that 6th place finish coming in last year. So that was clearly his best result in his 3rd appearance. He's coming off the 7th at Century, so he's been chilling out for the past month. Hovland had to win at the end of last year, winning the Hero, and then also has been chilling with the 18th at Century. So he played here in 2020, finished 38th. So those are your top 3 players. And now we get to some of the 3 others. Actually, these 4 here. Power at 19-1, Hoagie and McNeely at 20-1, and Putnam at 25. And as far as, let's see, as far as our picks, now Hoagie, what did you think about? Because again, we've got his numbers, we've got all of that. What is your feeling about taking Hoagie again this week?
Again, he's first in my model, and I think the course is perfect for him. The number's just too short for me. Like, I don't see a huge difference between this group of players and the group that's between like 40 and 60-1. So I decided to take shots on the guys who are twice as long on the odds board. I just don't think there's a huge difference.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit before we get to Jared's picks. So let's go with two of my picks, and that is McNeely and Putnam. And I didn't take Power because I had to decide I was going to put all those 20 to 25-1s in there, so I decided to go with McNeely and Putnam. And McNeely, again, we talked about him. Putnam, meanwhile, talked about him a few weeks ago. Took him in the one and done. He finished 36th. So I wasn't totally happy about that, but it wasn't a disaster. Finished 6th here his last time out. So I figure that's the other thing that you have to do as a handicapper, I feel, especially in golf, is if you like a player 1 week or in one event, and then the next week or 2 weeks later, he pops up again on the board, and you don't necessarily have 5 or 6 guys that you really like, but you're looking for players, well, just go back to the one player like the week or two ago, because it's sort of like what you're doing with Lipsky in a way. We'll get to that. Why not just go with that guy? Because how many times has it happened where you'll take a guy and then a week or two later, the guy goes out and wins. You didn't take him. So how can it be so stupid? I just liked him a couple of weeks ago, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason you liked him a couple of weeks ago, even if he had a bad tournament that week. Like he can bounce back. And Putnam, I like. The only reason I didn't bet him is because just the number.
Yeah.
But he has been consistently gaining on approach and around the green and putting. It's off the tee where he's been struggling, but that is not as important here at Pebble Beach. Again, you're going to have a lot of guys just taking less than driver and just getting it out there into the fairway. So I do think this course sets up well for how he's been playing lately.
And then also Power, we mentioned him. He's coming in here. Ninth last year was his best finish. So those are those guys in that target area. Then you have Justin Rose at 28-1. He's played here sporadically over his career. Does have one top 10 in 3 appearances. That was way back in 2016. He's trending in the right direction. He got off to a really slow start last week. No big surprise. We talked about that with the different courses. And then he came back and cruised his way into a top 20. So I don't think he's a bad idea, especially when you're just talking about this other group of players. I expect him to play. I expect him to keep it up. And I think, he's experienced enough to understand this whole Pro-Am deal. So I expect him he might have a top 10 this week.
Yeah, he's probably, again, I don't love Rose at 28-1, but he's probably another guy to consider and one and done. Not someone you're going to want to use at one of the bigger events. Does seem like a pretty good course fit for him, especially at this age when he's not one of the longer guys out there anymore. And he has been playing well, really over his last 4 events, 9th, 29th, 26th, 18th. So he definitely seems to have found something.
And then at 35-1, you got Kuchar, Mitchell, and we'll just go with those two, Kuchar and Mitchell. Kuchar, I was actually thinking of Kuchar as a potential because he's coming in after the 7th at Sony. Now he's got his proper rest as an older player. So I could see this being a good opportunity for him. He's very experienced here, playing here 15 times, but he only has one top 10. That's asking an awful lot to win after playing here 15 times with one top 10.
Yeah, I'm not sure Kuchar is going to win again on the PGA Tour. Now, if he does, it's going to be on a short course like this. And he is playing well lately. He's gained off the tee in 5 straight events. He's gained on approach in 4 of his last 5. So he's playing well. I think he's a good top 20 bet. I don't think I'm going to put my money on Kuchar to win, though.
And then we get to 40-1, and that is where I have one of my picks, McCarthy. And McCarthy's coming off a 12th here last year. That's his best finish in 3 appearances. And it was last year when we were looking at McCarthy, and he'd pop up a little bit, especially in some of the majors. I think he played well at the U.S. Open, I think it was. And he was kind of getting into that territory towards the end of the season, or towards the end of the regular season, where it was like, yeah, you know what, maybe this guy's about to win. But, kind of cooled off again. But now I think the way things are going, this may not be a bad place for McCarthy with a field like this, that if I'm going to take a stab at a player that maybe, at a player in this range, maybe this is a good guy to take a stab at.
Yep, just not my type of player. He does it all with putting. I like the guys that can't putt. But I do think he makes sense.
Okay, and at 45-1, a couple of players of note. One player that we didn't take. The only reason I didn't take him is because he hasn't played in a while. But Joel Damon, he really ended last season super strong with 16, 3rd, 9th, and 5th. I don't think he's ever had a run like that before. Keeping in mind, his best finish here was last year when he finished 6th. But he just hasn't played in a few months. And I think that's probably asking for a little bit too much. But I can completely understand anybody that would back Damon this week.
If you think he's going to pick up where he left off last time we saw him, he's a great bet. I'm with you. I just don't know what to make of him. It's funny. I'm looking at his numbers. He has the best course history in this field on Spyglass. Now he's been bad at Pebble, and he's actually been pretty good at Monterey too. So you just got to figure out Pebble, but he's been really good at the other two
Yeah,
courses.
unfortunately, you got to play Pebble twice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if you make that.
But we now finally get to Jared's top pick at 45 to 1. Alex Smalley. And I'm not surprised you picked Smalley in general because I know you like this player. So you're hoping this is the week. Only played here once, missed the cut last year, went on to par. So what do you like this week? Most of all, as not only a pick, but you're the pick.
I'm going down the board with longer shots this week. Smalley missed the cut here last year, but he shot a 68 at Pebble. It was his performances on the other two courses that cost him. So I at least like that. But yeah, Smalley is first in my model over the last 3 months. So, short time span, but he's been awesome over the last 3 months. He's third in approach over the last 3 months. He's 20th in that 100 to 125 yard range. And even dating back farther, I mean, he's 11th in my model over the past 12 months. So he's just a guy I want to be betting on going forward. I do think he is a decent chance he gets a win this season. And in a weak field like this at a course that I think suits his game, I think it makes a lot of sense.
95th in the world, so the ranking makes sense for a winner here. And yeah, look at that. The end of last season, or towards the end of last season, his last 3 results were 11th, 4th, and 5th. And overall, as far as his professional results go, he will be looking for his first professional victory. He has no wins as a professional. His best finish was the Punta Cana Championship PGA Tour event last season when he finished runner-up. Okay, next up, there are some 50 to 1 shots. Pendrith is one of them. I know you like Pendrith. Detry is going to give it a chance for the first time. We told you about those first timers. A player that did not make my board, that the only reason is because I think I'm just like, in a way, throwing a dart at a dartboard. Not saying I won't put a buck on him, because I will. There's like about 6, 7 guys I'm going to do what you're doing. I'm just going to throw a buck on him, and this is going to be one of them, and that's Taylor Moore. Taylor Moore was 16th here last year. He's coming off an 11th, a very impressive 11th last week. So I figured, sort of like what you're doing with Smalley, I figured, a guy that doesn't have a lot of experience here, but maybe this is the right time to take him. So,
yeah, I looked at Taylor Moore, and what I love about him is POA is easily his best putting surface. He's actually a negative putter on Bermuda. He's like flat even on bent, but he's a big positive on POA. So, he's a good ball striker. You look at his off the tee numbers, his approach numbers; they've been pretty solid. So if you can catch a hot putting week with Taylor Moore, and this is his best surface. I do think this is a good course for him.
At 60 to 1, we grab another one of your long shots, Ben Griffin. Griffin will be playing here for the first time, so he's going to look to break that streak of first timers. Like I said with McNeely, Griffin is going through a nice stretch. 7 top 35s over his last 9 events, including a 3rd in Bermuda.
Yeah, I think like Alex Smalley, just another young golfer who seems to be playing really well right now. Griffin's gained off the tee and on approach in 5 straight events. He's 7th in this field off the tee over the last 3 months. He's 25th on approach. He's 37th in that 100 to 125 yard range. So just checks a lot of boxes. And again, another guy like Smalley just seems like an ascending player.
Yeah, let's see, 4, 5, 6. He hasn't missed the cut in his last 10, I believe. So that's always nice to see. He is 97th in the world. And during that stretch where he hasn't missed a cut, 7 of those, I think it's 7 of 9, were in the top 35. So he's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, it's a pretty small sample of the strokes gain data I have on him, because he hasn't played a ton on the PGA Tour, but he has these spike putting weeks. I'm looking at it now. He has 3 events where he's gained over 4 strokes putting out of like 12 measured events here. So, we'll see if that continues to be a trend or not. But I do like those players who, maybe are negative putters for a few weeks and they'll just spike and get really hot with the putter.
Okay. And then also at 60 to 1, by the way, Moenax, who by the way is on Jan's fantasy team. Moenax 60 to 1. Stallings is also on Jan's fantasy team. And he's been hit or miss. He's got 3 top 15s in 8 appearances, 1 top 5, but he's missed a cut 2 of the last 3 years. He's also kind of cooled off just a little bit. He was hot there for a while, so it's important he kind of get going again. Burmester, we've talked about him. He missed a cut last year, 3 over par. These are all the players around the 60-1 range. Knox is also in that range. He has a decent history here with 6 top 35s in 9 appearances, 3 top 15s in the last 5 years, including a 7th in 2021. He was 33rd last year. So Russell Knox, probably the most consistent player in that grouping at Pebble Beach.
Every time I bet Russell Knox, he lets me down. He actually is a good fit here. He's one of the better approach players in the field. He's not a good putter, and he's not good on POA, which is concerning. But he was definitely on my list. Knox is a tough guy for me to click on to bet. I feel like every time I bet him, he disappoints.
All right, now 70-1 shots, and one of your players is Lipsky. Going back to Lipsky, why not? 24th last year, really good showing a couple of weeks ago when he finished 4th at Sony. Came back, missed a cut last time after that. That's okay, whatever. Moving on. Maybe this is a good week for him to kind of get going again.
Well, he lost 4 strokes putting last time out at Amex when he missed the cut. And putting does tend to be the issue with David Lipsky. POA is his best putting surface, though. He's just a slight negative on POA. He's way negative on the other surfaces, but this is his best surface. I just think he's a better player than 70-1 in this field. He's 7th in my model, both over the last 3 months and the last 12 months. 8th best in this field on approach. And like you said, did have the 24th place finish here last year.
Yeah, and you're going to see that there's going to be a time when a Lipsky or a Smalley, or even McCarthy guy is going to take a win, and then that's going to kind of put them in a completely different category.
Agreed.
So, yeah, you look at Lipsky, and the thing with him is just like a lot of other these players, it's just to be a little bit more consistent. And that's the reason also why he's not as he's 155 Smalley's in the 90s, because at least Smalley has that run. Lipsky still needs to get that run going, like one of those 7, 8 out of 9 runs where he's in the top 35. All right.
Yep.
Also at 75-1, you're going back to your boy Nesmith. Why not? If you're going to go with long shots, this is the week to make sure Nesmith's in there for you. So Nesmith's actually gone the opposite way in 3 appearances here, but he does have 2 top 20s and an 11th place finish here.
Yeah, Naismith reminds me of Hoagie a little bit, and I'm not saying he's going to win this like Hoagie did. I'm betting him, so I think he has a chance. But he's kind of short off the tee, but he's an excellent wedge player. He's 19th in that range. We talked about 100 to 125 yards. He does have the 11th and 16th place finish here. And actually, over the last 5 years, Naismith is 2nd in this field in strokes gained at Pebble. He hasn't been as good at the other 2 courses, but if he can figure those out, he has been awesome at Pebble Beach. So I like that.
All right. We also we might as well in this talk about Todd, because he's 75-1, and Todd, his ranking has fallen to 109 now. Because it was a nice story a couple of years ago when his game returned. And it was like, oh, that's nice. It's always nice to see when these players that haven't done well for years and they get their game back, and he was back into the top 50. But all of a sudden, he's back into a more of a dry spell. It's like he's just inconsistent. He's not bad for long. It's just inconsistent, missed cuts, and then a top 20, and then a top 10s every once in a while. So he's got 3 top 20s and 9 appearances here with 2 top 10s, but he also has 5 missed cuts. He was 16th last year, and he's on your board for which one is he on your board for?
He's on my board for he's 3rd best in this field in that 100 to 125 yard range.
There you go. So
he's a shorter accuracy player. So this is the type of course you'd want to bet Brendan Todd at. You said inconsistent. That's a perfect word for him. And just looking at his results, he has the spike weeks, 9th at the Fortinet in September, 7th at the CJ Cup in October. But outside of that, it's been a lot of missed cuts and finishes outside the top 20. Again, it's the type of course you'd want to bet Brennan Todd at. He's just I'm just not going to get there.
80-1 is one of my long shot picks, and that is Joseph Bramlett. This is just one of those long shots that checks a few boxes, and he was 13th last week. So I figured, okay, if I'm looking for a long shot, I'll throw one in there. So Bramlett at 80-1. And then you took, because you wanted to have the market on the Griffins.
That's right.
Went to Lanto, as well as Ben. And Lanto has played here 3 times. He's got 2 top 20s, 1 top 10. So that's pretty good. He's coming off a 37th last week at the Farmers. So why go back to Lanto? And did you just want to make sure you had both Griffins, so when you're watching the leaderboard, if you see a Griffin, you're not upset because it's the wrong Griffin?
Exactly. I think I got all the Griffins in the field, right? I don't think there's anyone else.
I don't think so.
Yeah, Lanto missed like 6 months after having back surgery last summer. He played a Corn Ferry event like 3 weeks ago, and then played Farmers last week. Came 37th, had a decent week. Was kind of like field average off the tee approach, around the green and putting, kind of across the board. But I like that he's shaking some rust off. It to me, Lanto, if you're getting him, pre-injury form, he's a lot better than 90-1 in this field. Yeah. So there's obviously some risk coming off the injury, only having played 2 events, but I'll take my chances at 90-1.
Yeah, because he was going really pretty positively just a couple of years ago in 2020. He had a nice little run going where he was somebody that you were going, okay, this is pretty interesting. But then
even last year he had some, he was 3rd at the Amex last year, 16th here, 6th at Wells Fargo. So he's been in the mix.
Okay. And let's see. Now I can move on to the next page of long shots. By the way, Bo Hostler, we didn't pick Hostler, but he was 3rd here last year. It's just that he's until he figures out how to be more consistent off the tee. It's just it's I don't even know why you could take the guy. Maybe you take him in live betting if you think he's in the right situation and maybe he's hot off the tee. But I don't know if he's gotten any better recently. The kid's got talent, but he's not where he needs to be.
Yeah, and he seems to. I don't know if choke's the right word, but he seems to feel the pressure whenever he's in the mix.
It's easy to choke too when you're pretty wayward off the tee.
Wild, yeah, for sure. Not a good combo.
No, bad one actually. Okay. By the way, one of your boys you did not go with, Cal Taryn, is 80-1. One of my picks last week, Shelton, also 80-1. Webb Simpson's 80-1. Kevin Streelman's 90-1. If you like to go with guys that fit the golf course, he's 7 top 20s and 15 appearances, including 6 in the last 7 years, with 3 top 10s and a runner-up in 2020. So Streelman is not a bad idea if you're looking for a long shot at 90-1.
Shelton's the guy among those you listed that I looked at because he is a really good approach player and he is really good in that wedge range, the 100 to 125. Okay. He's 16th best in this field over the last 12 months. So he was a guy that I definitely considered, didn't quite get to him.
Oh, and then my last pick is 110-1, just like one of your last picks, Garrett Higo. I have Troy Merritt. Now, Troy Merritt, in his first 6 appearances at Pebble, missed the cut. But in his last 4 appearances, which have come in the last 5 years, he's 8th, 25th, 16th, and 4th last year. So hey, you know what? If I'm going to take Troy Merritt this year, this is the golf course to take him.
Yep, short hitter, good putter. It's a good course for him, as those recent results would kind of tell you. He is just super inconsistent, which again is not a bad thing if you're betting someone at 110-1. Like you want the guy who's either going to miss the cut or be there in the top 10.
Yes.
That's kind of what Merritt has been.
And then Higo, look, it was a big surprise when he won last year at that Palmetto Championship.
Yeah, it was 2021. It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. But this is a player that you felt it was going to be, and look, it's still the case because he hasn't really done anything consistently. But this is a player with a lot of talent. This is a player that it would not be a shock in the next couple of years to see him in the top 50.
Yeah, and he's a guy I'm not going to compare him to Max Homa, but he's a guy who has he like you said, he won the Palmetto in 2021 on the PGA Tour. He also won once in 2020 and twice in 2021 on the Euro Tour. So this kid has 4 wins, over the past few years. He's just 23 years old.
Right.
I just like a guy who, like you said, he's talented. He's proven he can win when he's in the mix. Now, he was bad for most of 2022, but he had a 3rd place finish at Sanderson in October, and then he finished 11th at the Amex a couple weeks ago. Then he was 53rd last week at Farmers. He gained off the tee and on approach in both of those events. So it seems like his game is starting to round back into form. And again, if he's that guy that won 3 times in 2021, I think he's a really nice bet at 110 to 1.
Benny On, who we've mentioned, I took him a couple of weeks ago. He's also playing here for the first time. Definitely got my eye on him. I want to see if he starts playing a little consistent in the top, starts throwing in some top 20s in there. He may not be a future good long shot to keep an eye on. And Jimmy Walker, we got to keep an eye on this week because at 150 to 1, Jimmy Walker has 7 top 25s in 15 appearances, 5 top 10s, 2 top 5s. He won in 2014. But the injuries have not only wiped out his overall game, but it's also any production he's had here. So while his production has gone away, it's kind of skewed his record here. So I wouldn't look necessarily at that. What I'm wondering is after the way he played last week, is he ready to turn a corner sometime soon? And he's going to at least be a halfway decent long shot to seriously look at, or is that just a week? And he's going to be injured again in a couple of weeks. So
I'm guessing it was just a week. Just looking at his stats from the Farmers, he did it all around the green and putting. He lost strokes off the tee and on approach. That's a tough way to live. Not a guy I want to bet on. So we'll definitely keep an eye on him. Because if he can, get and stay healthy, he maybe could be relevant again. But not for me this week.
We talked about Schmid, Matty Schmid. We mentioned him a number of times this season, and he is going to be your big long shot this week at 180 to 1.
Yeah, well, Jan mentioned him on our draft show.
Rookie.
I honestly I had never heard of the guy, but then he popped at Amex, finished 6th. I saw quite a few of his shots on Sunday. He just impressed me the way he hung in there, being in the mix as a rookie on a Sunday. Over the last 3 months, he's 19th best in this field off the tee. He's 37th best on approach. So, I'm buying what Jan was selling with Matty Schmid.
Yeah, again, Jan had 4 rookies to keep an eye on. Schmid was one, Hall was the other, and I can't remember who the other 2 were, but 2 of them are playing in this event. Was Eckroat one of them? Austin Eckroat?
Might have been, and that might have been you that brought him up.
Yeah, I did pick him, but I might have picked him because of Jan, so it might have been. So, all right, so players that I didn't have on my board, but I'm probably gonna throw a buck on. We didn't really talk about Mitchell, but I think he kind of fits that. Maybe this could be a good week for Mitchell kind of deal at 35 to 1. Mentioned Kuchar, but Todd at 75 to 1. I mentioned Moore. That's pretty much it as far as some of the long shots. You've got the market cornered on long shots this week. So if you take the long shots out of the equation, if you had like a couple of players that were 30 to 1 or less, and you had to pick a couple of them, and that might even coincide with your one and done, and your 2 one and done picks. Who would that be again?
Yeah, Seamus Power was the higher price guy, came closest to betting. There was a 25 to 1 out there somewhere on him this morning. I'm not sure if it's still there. To me, to me, he's the 4th best player in this field.
Yeah.
I would take him over, Hoagie and McNeely, Justin Rose. But to me, after Fitzpatrick, Hovland, and Spieth, I think Power's the next best player.
Agreed.
And again, you're getting double the odds on him versus someone like Spieth.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I know he started that way odds wise. I'm not sure where he is now, but yeah, he did start as the 4th overall choice.
Yeah.
But there's been movement.
Yeah, I don't trust the top of this board. Like outside of Hovland and Fitzpatrick, and I don't want to bet them at 10-1. I just don't trust these other guys. That's why I'm living in that 40+
And
range.
we'll find out how it all goes with the coverage for the first couple of days. I'll give it a try, but as soon as I start seeing, all right, let's take a look at. I don't even have to hear them. The camera goes on a player, and I'm like, who is that? And I'm like, okay, here we go. And it's the vice president of sales at Coca-Cola. You know, it's like, oh, please, we don't want that.
Is Josh Allen playing again this year?
No,
I know
he's
played in
not.
this years ago. Oh,
I
he's
don't know if
not.
he's not playing football, but I don't know if he's playing golf. I don't know. Why does he usually play these things?
He played in this event. I want to say it was 2 years ago.
Oh well, maybe we'll see him.
Yeah.
I'm at.
By the way, what'd you think of the Max Homa mic'd up? On that was on Friday or Saturday?
Missed it.
Did you see that? Yeah, they had him mic'd up for the 13th hole.
Yeah, was it pretty
the
colorful?
The whole way down from. Yeah, it was great. He was just kind of explaining his thought process on the shots. I didn't really like it as a Homa bettor because I thought it was distracting him. And it was an adventurous hole too. He ended up making par, but it was good. Again, I think that's the type of broadcast stuff that they should continue looking at just to improve it.
See, do that instead of showing amateurs.
Exactly.
Next week it's Phoenix. So next week it's the Super Bowl Sunday and Phoenix, and then we'll get a much better upgrade in talent. So there should be some high quality players at Phoenix, and then
it's Genesis. Right, that's my favorite event of the year. I love that course. I love Riviera.
So 2 more on the West Coast, and then we're heading to Florida at the end of the month at the Honda. So, and then once they hit Florida, then all of a sudden you really start thinking about the Masters. That's the first time you start thinking about the Masters. It's like, we're here, we're getting there. It's Florida. We're in the southeast. They're not too far away. Well, Honda's Palm Beach Gardens, so it's not too far away from Augusta. So it's a lot closer than Pebble. All right, Jared. So you still talking football on Draft Sharks?
We are, yeah. Mostly dynasty content at this point. We're kind of going position by position, looking at guys to consider trading for or trading away if you're in a dynasty league. So you can head over to either draftsharks.com or the Draft Sharks YouTube channel to check that out.
All right. We will do that. And again, don't forget, check out, well, really, besides if you want to check out golf stats, you can look at the description and copy and paste that. You can get yourself a nice description there. But also, if you have any questions or comments regarding any specific players that maybe we didn't touch up on, or anything else that you have to say, maybe you have something that you'd like for us to talk about that we haven't talked about yet, please let us know. And this is just going to keep getting better and better as we. So I just got to get past this week. I'm not a big fan, so let's just get past this week, man.
After this week, it's awesome.
It's going to be a great ride. Can't wait. All right, Jared. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, see you, Greg.